Okay, hello, welcome to another Zoom group. I'm going to start off with a bit of meditation just to add a more dimension to the connection, because there's two aspects to the communication that's going on and the connection we have. There's the obvious one, the eyes open one, where you're in a room, you're watching this video or you're here in the Zoom group, and it's just you in a room with a device of some kind, laptop, phone, tablet, whatever. And the communication is kind of being squeezed through that little device. And so you see my head and you can hear my voice, and you can maybe see some of the other people if I'm in the Zoom group, if they happen to come on screen. But mostly your experience is just you in a room. Okay, so that's one aspect of the communication. It's a very technological kind of slightly mindful, not in a good way, mindful way of communicating. So let's when I'm meditating, I don't get into a meditative position. I like to just close my eyes. It's almost like freeze, what's going on. So I just close my eyes. So I'd encourage you to just close your eyes. And it's a great way to immediately connect with how you're feeling, how your body is, how it's actually going in there. Because I've been doing this for years, and I'm still surprised that as soon as I close my eyes, I go, oh my God, I'm so uncomfortable. Or, okay, I'm not terribly uncomfortable, but I'm way more uncomfortable than I realized. And just that simple act of closing my eyes brings that to my attention. And as I listen to my body, or I become more conscious of my body, because as soon as I close my eyes, I'm closing out all of this visual, super interesting, technical or interesting information. And I'm come into my body a little bit more. I'm much more aware of the sensation in my body. And then as soon as I become aware of that, I become aware of areas that are tense that I didn't realize were tense before. Because there's a strong, I find there's a strong connection between my eyes open and my thinking. And part of it is my nervous system is wired to scan the visual field for threats, and to be processing all this information. So it does engage my mind a lot. And the more my mind is engaged, the less conscious I am of my body. So as soon as I close my eyes, I shut all that off, and my mind starts to scan my body in the same way. And then I kind of notice, oh, my back is not as straight as I was. And I thought I was comfortable, but this slouching actually isn't that as comfortable as I thought it was. And my shoulders are a bit bent forward. And I don't really want to have my legs crossed. I thought I did, but no, I don't really want to. And I don't really want to be joining my hands. And my body, my system starts talking to me in a lot more detail. So I'd encourage you to let your body do that as well. You can scan your body up and down for tension if you want. I don't do that so much normally. I mean, I do say that when I'm doing the daily meditations, because it's a good practice to do if you're new to meditation, to slowly scan your body from your head to your feet and back up again. But if you're, after a certain point, you don't need to do that. I certainly don't do that so much if I'm just meditating for myself, because it's almost, I probably have trained my body now at this stage. As soon as I close my eyes, it's like, okay, any tension, and it just kind of goes, yeah, me. What about me? Or over here, So either is fine. The practice of scanning your body up and down is good at the beginning of meditating, but like when you're starting out in meditation. But it's not. You don't have to stick to it hard and fast. And anywhere you find tension, just let it go. Anywhere you find tension, yeah, just let it go. I don't know about you, but for me, my abdomen, my stomach area, that's an area I have to focus on quite a lot to get it to relax, because I have a lot of unconscious holding that goes on there. I have a feeling most people do, because we're kind of conditioned to look slim and beautiful and hold in our tummies. But maybe not. Maybe that's just me. But yeah, that's an area I focus on. Another area that's good to spend a bit of time on is the heart area. I find I have to focus, I have to listen quite closely to that area to actually get a sense of how it is. And what I find is that part of me likes the most is when I think about expansion. It's not like I'm commanding it to expand. I don't mean that. But I just think about expansion, and I think about my heart area expanding, you know. And physiologically, you know, your heart is in a bag. It's called the pericardium. And often there can be a lot of tension in the pericardium, so your heart can feel squeezed. And just thinking about expansion can allow that pericardium to loosen off a bit and give your heart a bit more space to do the magical things that it does. Another nice thing to do is to begin to let go of the idea of the things that are quite strong when you have your eyes open, like the shape of your body, um, where things are, the proprioception of your body, meaning, you know, my feet are down there, my head is up there, my hands are over there. If you let go of that and just go with the sensation, it allows the different sensations in your body to be more fluid, and the sensations in your feet can feel like they maybe are coming up, and then, you know, your mind will be going, that couldn't be true, my feet are down there, you know. Just sort of make a deal with your mind. Yeah, okay, fine, but it'll all go back. As soon as I open my eyes, it'll all go back to where it was. So just for now, just, you know, playfully let the sensations of the different parts of your body be wherever they want to be. And again, these are things that you can spend a lot of time on in meditation on your own. I'm just kind of, this is like a little smorgasbord, little, what do they call it? Tasting platter of different things that you can do in your meditation on your own. So for now, I'd like you to just bring your attention to the sensation in your hands, wherever your hands are. And notice the difference between the sensation in the front of your hands. And by the front, I mean, you know, your palms, the tips of your fingers, that side of your hand, and the back of your hand. And just see if there is a difference between the front of your hand and the back of your hand. And again, let go of the idea of the shape of your hand, the size of your hand. Because I know when I focus on the sensation in my hands feel much bigger when I let go of the idea of how big they are. And when I let go of the shape of them, the front part of my hands, my palms and fingertips, that seems much bigger than the back of my hand. It's kind of pyramid shaped in comparison, front part being the base of the pyramid. And what I'd like you to do is just get a good, like a snapshot or reference point of what that sensation of your hands feel like just as they are now. As I said, the focus of this meditation is to do with communication and connection. And as I say, when you close your eyes, you begin to go deeper into your body. So if you think of your body as a bit like a jelly mold that you were sort of pressed up against and you were looking out through those two slits into existence. And you close the slits and now you've pulled back from the jelly mold. And as you pulled back, your body has kind of changed in shape. And maybe you're pulling back deeper, deeper into behind the scenes. And behind the scenes, you can connect with other people, other things. So just to sort of bring the dimension of connection that we have going on, as well as the frontal connection that we talked about at the beginning. If you want to stretch your arms out on either side of you, as if you're reaching out to touch somebody on either side of you. And kind of hanging on to what that reference for what the sensation in your hands was like before. Now see if you can get a sense of that plus something else. So have the intention that you want to connect with me. Just start off with me. And see if you can get a sense of connecting with me. And this, I include the people, you know, if you're watching this video later, you can do this as well. Because behind the scenes, time and distance and space, they operate differently. You know, in the eyes open, you know, in front of the curtain, if you like, of course, we're all in our separate places and separate times. Behind the curtain, behind the scenes, we can all be connected. So even though the people in the Zoom group are all over the different places in the world, even though if you're watching this video, you're at a different time, you can still connect with me. And if your mind freaks out about that, let's say, yeah, well, just humor me. Just humor me and humor that guy. And let's just see what it feels like. And just, you know, you can have a good old think about it afterwards, but just for now, go with the sensation in your hands and then see if you can feel something different. And that something different will be me. Just in your fingertips. And as you focus on that, it can travel down your fingertips and maybe you'll feel it in your hands more. And then maybe you'll feel it in your, you know, the forearms and elbows. And you can almost feel like you have your arm around my shoulder if you want. And if you're getting a sense of that, that's great. It's all right if you're not, but it's okay. It's great. It's good if you are. And then see if you can also include the other people in the Zoom group. And I'm talking to the people who are watching this video later as well. See if you can include the people in the Zoom group. And again, just make a little arrangement with your mind. You're going to have a good old think about this later, but just for now, just focus on the sensation in your hands. And there'll be that reference for what you had of the sensation and what your hands were like, the sensation in your hands. Then there'll be that other thing that was me. And now there's even more. There's even more. And again, try and keep your mind out of it as much as possible. Don't, you know, you don't have to have everyone in a big circle or anything like that. You can simultaneously connect with everybody at the same time, individually and collectively. Again, the rules are different back here. And, well, there's no real rules back here, but it operates differently. So time and space don't matter. So you can get a sense of the other people in the group and a sense of, if you're watching the video, you can get a sense of the other people in the group. And in the same way that I was saying about distance doesn't matter and time doesn't matter, you can, for the people in the Zoom group, you can get a sense of all the people who are going to watch this video. You can connect with them. Again, if your mind wants to get involved, you can just say, yeah, I'm going to have a good old think about that later on. But for now, I'm just going to get a sense of expansion into all the people who are going to watch the video. And if you're watching the video, you can have a sense of all the people, as well as me, the group of people here. And you can also get a sense of all the people who watched the video before you and who are going to watch the video in the future. So all the time expanding and realizing, realizing and sensing how much more there is to connect with behind the scenes. Because if you've heard people talk about profound realizations they've had, say, they've done an ayahuasca ceremony, or they've had an LSD trip, or they fasted for 40 days, or anything that kind of puts them into an altered state of mind. And they say, oh, wow, it was so amazing. I just realized how we're all connected. You see this idea come up again and again in different traditions, and this idea of that we're all one, that we're all connected. And that's a beautiful realization. People say, oh yeah, I looked at the tree and the tree was me and I was the tree, or I looked at the deer and I was the deer and the deer was me, or I looked into that person's eyes and there was no separation between us. And that's all beautiful. But it doesn't happen in the eyes open, in front of the scenes side of things. It's not like, you're looking into somebody's eyes and you suddenly merge, your bodies suddenly merge. And when I say that, I don't mean that's code for sex or anything like that. I mean, you don't physically become part of the other person's body. Where you register all that is behind the scenes, where people who are talking about that strong sense of connection, a realization of connection, where that connection is registered is behind the scenes. Here, where we are now, where you're experiencing it now. Connection with me, there's people in the Zoom group, people before you, people who are going to watch the video. And if you're watching the video, people who watch before you and after. All that you register here behind the scenes in this very powerful, mysterious, beautiful place. And the lovely thing to realize is that when you get a sense of this, and again, you can do this in your meditation, when you get a sense of this, you realize that you never really are alone. There's always someone to connect to, or something to connect to. It doesn't matter where you are. Behind the scenes. If you know where to look, it's behind the scenes, and you have that strong sense of connection. Okay, so we're going to start coming out of the meditation now. And if you're new to meditation, you can have a strong feeling of having descended into somewhere. That'll be to do with your nervous system, and there's nothing wrong with that. And it can be just quite disorienting if you just pop your eyes open. If you have that feeling of like, oh, I've gone very deeply inside. Where you're headed towards, though, is that you be able to open your eyes and, just at the drop of a hat, open your eyes and be able to hold the inner space and the outer space at the same time. So you decide where you are on that spectrum. If you feel like you need to come back from somewhere, then do that. Take a minute to come back from there. If you have been meditating for a while and you kind of getting the hang of it, and you can experiment with it. You can open your eyes, and then as soon as you open your eyes, you feel like you've lost that inner sense, and that's fine. You can just close your eyes again, and open your eyes again, close, go back and forth till you just have a feeling of, no, I can hold the two together. Because in my experience, that's the way meditation goes. The more you do it, the more you practice, the more you sort of bring the depths up to the surface, and it spills out into the rest of your life. And it's not something I notice, but it's something that people say to me, like they'll go, oh, you're very calm, or you're very, you're very peaceful, or there's a very nice energy comes off you. You know, now to me, I don't notice that. It's just, you know, but I think what they're recognizing is, you know, a lot of meditation, it just comes up and it just permeates the rest of your life. So it becomes less and less a case of I'm really stressed and then I go and meditate and I kind of calm down a bit and then I get back to being really stressed. It becomes less of that and more a case of there's just a general connection with this very deep part of me, and then I, you know, periodically dip into a deeper connection with that, or a more conscious connection with that, and then I continue on. That's how meditation certainly works in my life. Okay, so yeah, Happy New Year. This is the first Zoom group of 2021. So it's I don't know if you all can feel it as well, but everything's speeding up. There's a quickening, continuing to quicken going on. I sort of say this at the around the beginning of this, but you know, I've said this many times in the Zoom groups that, you know, the time of the guru's over. This isn't like me telling you about how things are or anything like that. It's much more in the vein of Ram Dass's thing of we're all walking each other home. We're all walking each other home, yeah. Or Thich Nhat Hanh's thing of the next Buddha is the community. Like, so we're all the Buddha and we're all helping each other. So anything I say, it's just me sharing my perspective, my experience. It's not the truth. I'm not saying that there is the truth or that there is any ultimate truth. It's just this is how things appear to me. So having said that, then I much prefer talking about the sort of things that are of interest to you or are concern to you, or hear about how it's going for you. So does anybody have any questions or concerns or anything they want to share or anything like that?
Hi, me.
Hello.
Do you hear me well?
I do.
Great. Could you talk about the good symptoms or of further emergence? If there are any
Could
good
I talk about what?
symptoms, like
I didn't catch the
good
first thing you said.
symptoms,
The good
if you can
symptoms.
talk, yes, if there are any good symptoms of growing inner.
Oh, okay. So if I understand you right, because in the meditations I generally talk, in the daily meditations I talk about how further emergence can, you know, be like physical symptoms or disorientation or mostly negative things, really, I suppose, or not negative but difficult things. You're asking me if are there any good signs of further emergence? Is
Yeah.
that right?
For example, sometimes I felt like warm in my chest, if you know what I mean, like a
Yes.
heat in my chest.
Yeah.
I never knew what was it, and I never think too much about that. But I wonder if there are any, if that maybe could be a good symptom. Because I
Yeah.
don't have bad ones for now, and I wish I'm growing.
You wish you're growing.
I wish I'm growing in my inner self, but I don't have
Yeah.
any bad symptoms for now.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's it's very individual, and it can be on all different spectrums, and then it can change. You know, not only is it different for each person, but it can be different for the same person as they go through different things. So, and there can be very lovely, like I'm going through something at the moment where I'm having a deeper sense of gratitude. And that to me is part of further emergence. And by that, I mean, it's sort of going from, I mean, I live in a very beautiful part of the world and the nature here is spectacular. And, you know, I mean, people come here when they can travel to visit because it's so beautiful. People move countries to come and live here because it's so beautiful. Okay, so it's gone from me kind of going, oh, it's a lovely day today, you know, sort of consciously. It's going from that into almost like a wordless recognition, and I can just sort of feel that feeling of this is really beautiful. I could feel that in my whole body. So it's kind of gone from me kind of thinking, oh, this is a lovely day, or that's a beautiful mountain or lake or river or sea or whatever it is that whatever beauty it is that I'm perceiving. It's gone from me kind of going, oh, there's beauty, great, to I can sort of feel it in my whole body. So that's part of further emergence. I didn't used to feel like that. I didn't used to register it that way, you know. And it's not like, you know, that's very pleasant. There's no no gnashing of teeth and disorientation or anything like that, you know. So yeah, I think you can register it in any way, but it sounds like you are slightly concerned that you might not be growing. Is that am I just making that up, or am I picking that up?
Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. Which is, you know, like the thing is, if you're interested in these sort of things, you know, I mean, a lot of people are not. So if you're interested in meditation, a lot of people are not. You know, if you're interested in consciousness and spirituality, you know, just the mere fact that you're interested in those things, that you're drawn to those things, that means you have a sensitivity for them. I would trust that, you know. And you know, it's like that, like anything else. When you hear about other people's experience, it's like if it resonates, you go, yeah, I've had that experience. But if it doesn't resonate, it's like, okay, that's nice for them. I think it's a lovely story, but yeah, I've never experienced that, you know. That's one of the things like I really had to let go of in the process of getting enlightened, because there's so many stories about, oh, if you're enlightened, you have to be able to do miracles, you have to, you know, be super in a good mood all the time. You have to, you know, never be unhappy and all this kind of thing, you know, which is a lot of that is comparing to other people and going, oh, well, I'm not having the way they're describing it. No, I'm not having that. Which in the process of getting enlightened was nothing to do with any of that stuff. It's just really personal and really, you know, just knowing without thoughts, you know, knowing without figuring it out, you know. So um, that lovely warm feeling in your chest that you're talking about, that's lovely. That's great. I mean, as soon as you said that, I was thinking about, oh yeah, I know that feeling, and from our version of that, when I was talking about your heart and that kind of expansion, it can be like that, you know. So I would be open to both, you know, because often you can have what I was saying about gratitude and sort of feeling in my body. That's happening with other things that are going on that are part of my own further emergence that are not so nice, you know. It all happen at the same time, you know. So I don't know. Does that help? I didn't hear, but that's okay. Were you nodding that helped? Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, good, good. All right. Anyone have any questions about that or anything else that they are concerned about or want to talk about? Or
Yeah, hi John.
hi, Faz.
Hi. I just wanted to ask, I don't know if this is a silly question, but we are all going through this process like everyone on Earth. So why is it that some people get enlightened and become more conscious and other people don't? I mean, like for me, it's like a desire. But I think what I'm trying to ask is that supposed to happen for everybody? I mean, is this kind of awareness of consciousness and enlightenment a necessity, or is it a choice? If we're all going through it anyway, why do we have to do it anything? I think is my question. If you know what I mean.
Yeah, I think I do. Well, other people are useful for reflection, but there comes a point when your mind can get involved with other people and thinking about other people and thinking about the population of the world, which is a concept. It's not a real thing. I can't experience the population of the world. I can't even experience the population of my own town here, you know, because my direct experience, and I find it's very helpful to continually ground my mind in what's happening now, right now. Keep bringing myself back to that. So right now, I'm just in a room on my own talking to a bit of metal. Okay. And behind the scenes, we're communicating, and a little bit in front of the scenes as well. So, you know, the idea of humanity, not just an idea, you know, for me, it's as, you know, it's as much of an idea as the Bahamas. I've never been to the Bahamas, so they don't exist for me. It's a story, you know, so keep bringing myself back to direct experience. So for me, it's like I would be going, why am I interested in this stuff? And what does that mean? You know, and I like the sound of this enlightenment thing. You know, I wonder, could I ever get enlightened? It sounds pretty good. I think I'd like that. You know, why do I want to do that? Why do I want to get enlightened? Well, you know, and what does that mean? And how can I do that? And what do I need to do? And do I have a choice in it? I know I didn't have a choice in it. It just has always been there. It had always been there for me. Not so conscious when I was younger, because I'd no frame of reference. You know, like my upbringing was the furthest removed from people getting enlightened, you know. Never heard of it. It was just like it's just not what people did. You know, people became priests or nuns. That's what people did if they were slightly spiritually inclined, you know. So, but it pretty much stalked me, or, you know, from the inside, and became interested in, you know, things that I, you know, came to me, and one thing led to another, you know, until it became a thing. It became a big thing for me. So there was no choice for me. I didn't feel like I had a choice in it. It was just something I was obsessed with.
Yeah.
And I'm still obsessed with it. I'm still obsessed with consciousness, you know. I'm still, it's what, you know, it's when I look back on my life, it's like that's the overarching thing. I've done many different things in my life. You know, I've had like loads of careers, and I've had many lives within the one life, like most people. But the one constant thing has been this thing about consciousness and awareness and what's going on, and love, and this God thing, this big thing. So that's always been there. So, you know, in a way, I mean, there were times where I sort of tried to, you know, willfully, I'm going to do this thing, and I'm sort of bought into the whole personal development idea of self-determination, of like, if I believe it enough, and if I say my affirmations hard enough and all this kind of thing, I can bend my life to what I want to make it happen. But that didn't work out at all for me. So I, you know, could say I got a bit lost and tried to, you know, get away from it, but it still was there, and I still ended up back with it. So for me, there was no choice in it. So I look out at other people, and they look like they've got varying degrees of consciousness at work. But from treating people, and particularly treating people with life-threatening issues, it seems like everybody's working out something, some fundamental question they have about themselves. So in a very simplified kind of, children's story kind of version of it, it feels like, and if we use archetypes here, we're all up in heaven and we're in a big line, and, we're going past the person who's dispensing unconsciousness. And then, the person in front of me goes, I'll have 3 kilos of unconsciousness, and they get their 3 kilos of unconsciousness and they go off and have their life, and they spend their life processing that unconsciousness, refining it, and all going well. Maybe by the end of their life, they've only got 1 kilo left out of the 3. And when it comes to me, I'll go, I'll have, that looks like a lot. I'll have 2, thanks. I'll have 2 kilos of unconsciousness. And the person behind me says, I'll have half a kilo, and so on. We spend the whole life processing. Okay. So we're all the same up in heaven. But when we are born, well, the guy in front is really unconscious because he's got 3 kilos. I'm 1 kilo less conscious, so I'm a little bit more, conscious. And then the guy behind me is practically radiant. He's only got half a kilo. I mean, he's practically fantastic, and he's probably going to get enlightened really fast, or probably even wouldn't be bothered about enlightenment. He'll just go around shining and being beautiful, So that's the way it looks. And it's not like it's a big dense block of unconsciousness. It looks much more like the way the clouds or the weather patterns go around the planet. It seems like a much more closer analogy, because sometimes people can be very cloudy, covered over. You can't see them at all. All you can see is their unconsciousness, and they're just angry and, blaming everybody and whatever. And then other times the clouds can part and they just shine through. And even the most unconscious person can say profound stuff and do profound things. So it's not fixed. It's not like, oh, well, that person's really unconscious and this person's lovely. It changes. But the process of refining that unconsciousness, that seems to be going on for everybody. To a greater or lesser degree, but I think it's got a lot more to do with how much they've got to deal with, But again, that only holds for how, it only holds for a certain amount. I'll only go so far with that, because if I start thinking about that too much, I'll keep going. I'll bring myself back to, well, how does it relate to me? How am I going? What is of interest to me? Why am I interested in enlightenment, and so on and so forth, Does that help?
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. I think also, does that mean that somebody that is interested, they don't have to do anything, like to just carry on, like just knowing that, and not really have to do like meditation and stuff like that, but they can if they want to. There's always a choice. Like,
yeah.
The way that I'm understanding it is, if I have taken on a certain amount of unconsciousness, then it's almost as if I have a duty to refine that. Is that correct, or do I not? Like, I could just carry on and not do anything?
Well, you can try both. I've tried it all. Like I've got quite a, rebellious adolescent part of me that just doesn't, that just has little tantrums about things, And if I have to, like I learned the hard way that I can't like go into a head-to-head conflict with that part of me, or I'll lose, So if I kind of go, oh, that's it, I think I need to exercise more, or I need to stop eating this thing, or whatever, and that part of me goes, no, I love not exercising. It's one of my favorite things to do, is not exercise. I can kind of force it a little bit, but eventually it will figure out some way to undermine the whole thing, or it's like, if I go, I'm going to stop eating those things, it's like, no, I love eating those things, I'm going to keep eating those things. Or if I mean, it sounds silly, but if I set up very, you know, I don't bother with routines anymore, because same thing. It's like I make this beautiful routine. I'm going to get up at this time, and then I'm going to do this thing, yoga or something. Then I'm going to have my breakfast. Then I'm going to do this other thing or whatever. And by the time I get to the end of it, and it's all set out, immediately I'll have a rebellion on my hands going, I hate that. I'm staying in bed. I'm not getting up. I'm not doing any of that stuff, you know? So I have to include that part of me. I have to include that part of me now, and kind of, if I hear something or I read something that's got the ring of truth, I kind of have to go. I start negotiations. Really, it's all about negotiation for me. I'll kind of, you know, one part of me will go, "Oh, that's it, brilliant! Now sugar is terrible. We should stop eating sugar altogether." And the part of me that likes cake is like, "No, that's no." Yeah, fine. You can say what you like, but you know, we're going to eat the cake. So I have to kind of wait and negotiate, and because there's another part of me that's very powerful that will just go, right, that's enough cake now. That only happened like, I don't know, 6 months ago, to do with sugar. I loved cake. I mean, I really loved cake. Not you know, too much, but I really liked cake. It was like a little treat kind of thing, you know. And yeah, one day it was just like, right, that's it for sugar now. No more cake, no more sugar at all. And that kind of, as at another level, you know, there was no argument about that, because the adolescent part of me, the rebellious part of me, knew, no, this is the powerful bit now. The bit, you know, it's like the part of me that's like, oh, I really shouldn't eat sugar, and it's like, no, I'm going to keep eating sugar. Those two are there arguing, but then this other thing is just like, and it's not even laying down the law, it's just happens, and no discipline required on my part, and I pretty much haven't eaten sugar since, or cake, you know. And I can just walk by the cake in the supermarket, or, you know, like there's a fantastic French bakery in town, and I can go in there, no problem, get a hot chocolate or something, and I don't have any desire to get cake, you know. So I think it kind of comes in this same way that, like, I would have heard about meditation, for example, and it's like, oh yeah, meditation's pretty important for this spiritual thing. So we're going to do meditation. And it's kind of in the same part that just goes, okay, that's enough sugar, you know. I mean, I've had that thing with, that's enough with lots of things. That's enough caffeine, so no more caffeine. That's enough gluten, so no more gluten. Alcohol, loads of things, you know. And it's the same. It's like, yeah, meditation, that's probably, yeah, we're going to do meditation. And even though, like, initially, you know, the rebellious part of me like, I don't want to meditate, it's so boring, God, I've got so many more interesting things I could do other than meditate, and I've got really important things and they have to be done, whatever. And that doesn't matter. That part just goes, no, let's do, we're going to do meditation now. So I kind of think that's some sort of deep part of me that just sort of runs the show, you know. And initially, I don't think I think I really underestimated how powerful that was, and caused more trouble for myself than anything else. Now I kind of can tell when it's in action, and I just kind of go, okay, fine. So I don't think of it in terms of duty. I don't think I've ever thought I have a duty to refine the unconscious that I have. It comes from my heart, you know, like I'll just, if I hit into a part of myself, you know, say an angry part of myself where, you know, I say, you know, I just snap at somebody that I love, or I'll snap at my dog or something, one of my dogs. I'll feel terrible, right? Now, I'll feel terrible on lots of levels, but I'll feel terrible because I don't like to think of myself as somebody who snaps, you know? So that's like kind of in a personality ego kind of way, you know? But deeper than that, the real sadness for me is I know it's not who I am. I know that I have a very strong sense of who I am in my heart, and it's sweet and lovely and loving and caring, and it's just not in my nature to snap at my dog or my wife or my child or whoever I love. It's just not in my nature. I know it's not in my nature. So when I see that happening, I'm just sad about it, that it's like, oh, that's not me. I know that's not me. And that informs me much more than any kind of sense of duty or anything like that. I'd be kind of going, what's that about? Why did I, what's happening there? Like, where's that coming from? And that begins the process of me becoming more conscious of what it was that triggered me to snap at somebody or to behave in a way that is just, it's all part of me. It's not like I'm going, oh, that's not me, I'm lovely. It's just like, it's kind of, I may not have been conscious about it before, but now I kind of am more conscious of, like, that's a part of me that that is separated or something. And I want to include it. I wanted to bring it back into the fold, which is kind of the process of refining on consciousness, what I was saying, So it's more from love that will drive me to do it, that will motivate me to do it or make me do it, rather than a sense of duty, And similarly, with the more boring, dry stuff like meditation, it will be, yeah, I know, because I meditate more, I'm more able to get ahead of things, that say in an argument, I can be a little bit quicker at kind of going, I'll be right into this big, yes, but here's why I'm completely right and you are completely wrong. I'll be right into that. And then I'll be able to stop, go, no, actually, I'm just being really defensive. Just forget everything I said. I'm sorry if I was for that thing I said where I was trying to rip your head off. Sorry about that. Hang on, somebody's asking a question. Did this will of no doing what you feel is not good for you grew in parallel with your meditation practice? Deeper you go, the closer to consciousness, the more will you have. Yeah, probably. I've been meditating for so long, it's very hard to separate it out. But I know, early on, 20, 30 years ago, I was meditating, but it didn't mean I was, more conscious of that. I'd have to say, yeah. I mean, I think it's not a conscious thing, but just more looking at the way things have evolved. I think meditation helped me be more conscious of what was going on. I mean, when I was less conscious, it would have been much more angsty and more everything is on top of everything else, so the part of me that was the the sort of personality, the unconscious parts of me that were involved in like my self-image and like, oh, I don't like to think that anybody thinks I'm the sort of person that snaps at people, oh, that would have been right on top of just the sadness in my heart about it's something off about that. It's just, it doesn't feel like it's really who I am, it just feels discordant on the inside with how I know myself to be. I don't enjoy it. I don't enjoy, even though I just won the argument spectacularly, I might say, I still feel like shit, that's not good. I don't know why do I still feel terrible, would have been all kind of squashed up on top of each other, How's that, Faz? Is that any help?
Yes, that's wonderful. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, good. Did that answer your question, Macarena? Yeah. Okay, good. Anybody got any other questions or concerns? Okay, I've had a few come in. I would like to get to one or two of them. Okay, well, this is kind of poignant, pertinent. This one says, dude, I never heard anything about anything till I heard you talking about further emergence. And when I did, I was floored. You nailed it. That's what's happening to me. I feel like I'm on fire, burning from the inside out, but it's weird. It's okay. But I'm still on fire. Some days I feel like I'm bursting out of my skin. Everything is changing so fast. What do I do? What do I hang on to? What can I hang on to? Should I even try to hang on? I've tried your meditation. It's hard, man. You're right when you say start off with 5 minutes and work up to longer time. I started with 2 minutes. It's all I can take. I don't really know if I really have a question, but anything you can say about the process would be helpful. Okay, well, that's kind of everything we were talking about. Yeah, that's pretty classic growth spurt in action there. That feeling of burning from the inside. So that's kind of what you were saying, Macarena, except he's got it. I'm assuming it's a he. I mean, maybe it's not. That's probably, yeah. Because the name that was attached is one of those, like Francis. I'm not saying it's Francis, but, could be man or woman. But the way it's written, I'd say it was a man. So, yeah, what he was saying was like that warm feeling. He's just like got it on fire on the inside. So I've seen that. I've felt it a little bit too on occasion. So, yeah, I mean, it's like when it's like that, when it's that kind of intense, there isn't anything much to do except just breathe and, put one foot in front of the other and meditate for 2 minutes. If you can meditate for 2 minutes, that's fine, and if you can meditate for 2 minutes every hour, that's great. And pretty soon you'll be able to meditate for 3 minutes and so on. I'm not saying meditation is the answer to everything. And there are times when it's not the best thing to do. If you've got a lot of mental anguish going on and your mind is into kind of looping thoughts, meditation is not going to help you. It's going to make it worse, because it will just amplify. It will be, instead of being time to go still, it will just be a time to amplify all those thoughts. In those situations, it's a little bit like being in a hurricane. You've got to sort of sit in the middle of the eye of the hurricane and wait for it to pass. And so for what I do in those situations is just gentle distraction. Movement is very helpful, because we build psychic kind of structures around ourselves, like a force field or an egg. Hard to describe. Who used to say it was an egg? I think it was Barry Long. Psychic egg around ourselves. So if you're going through something and you feel like your thoughts are looping and you're just a bit stuck, it's very helpful to just sort of take yourself out of that environment, away from that structure you just made, put yourself somewhere else. That's why people say going for a walk is so helpful. It's because you kind of take yourself out of the thing you've made. It's kind of like you make a little spider's web for yourself and then you're sort of stuck in it, and it's very hard to get out of it. Whereas when you take yourself away and go for a little drive or go for a little walk, it evaporates. And when you come back to the house, it's like, oh, everything looks a bit better, a bit deeper. I think what he was saying there is a good description of that kind of, the fastness of, when you're having a very strong case of further emergence, strong expression of further emergence, where everything's going very fast. You feel like you're almost crawling out of your skin. But I think if you know what's happening, it's really helpful. Whereas if you don't know what's happening, that's how people can end up, I've worked with a lot of people who've gone through very difficult experiences on the way to realizing, no, this is just further emergence. So they've gone to psychiatrists, they've gone to psychologists, they've been hospitalized, they've had all sorts of things, and they all end up basically going, none of it actually worked. But then they've got all this other stuff on top of it, on top of just the basic kind of further emergence stuff, and I'm not discounting any of those things. I mean, there's a place for all of those things, but if you're in the middle of further emergence, and you know, yeah, that's what's going on, then you can kind of sit down into it and just like, you know, that it's a naturally occurring thing and it will have a beginning, middle, and end. I mean, the process of emergence is continual through your whole life, in my experience. But these spurts can just, they be quite intense. And then you just, you know, settle on through it. So if you're watching this and you wrote in, yeah, I'd encourage you just try, be as lightly, handle it as lightly as possible. Be gentle with yourself. Take care of yourself as much as you can, and it will pass. And you know, the meditation will help unless you're gone into that looping thing, but it doesn't sound like you are. So just would gently ease yourself along, increase the amount of time. Just bear in mind that, you know, meditation can be hard when you feel like you have to not think for the length of time. If you understand that it's okay to think and you just keep bringing your mind back to not thinking, then it's easier for it to go on. You can go on for longer, you know. But if you've got the idea that you shouldn't be thinking at all, then it's going to be very hard. And you'll only be able to handle about 2 minutes of it. But if you kind of know, oh no, thinking's okay, it's part of it, it's part of the dance. Sometimes I'm very deep and still, and other times I'm, you know, on this long train of thought. Just as an aside, I'll give another thing for when you're meditating, and it's that idea of trains of thought. I think you can do like what I was, you know, the different things I was kind of the smorgasbord of little things that you can do that you can expand on in your own meditations, like awareness of your body, letting go of the shape and all that kind of thing. Another thing you can do is tracking your thoughts backwards. I've found that very helpful. So it's like normal, you're meditating and you stop thinking, turn off the pictures, turn off the sound. And then it's at that point when you kind of go, oh, I'm thinking, you know. Now a certain amount of time might have passed. I find this is very good for separating out what seem like deep, profound, you know, psychic revelations from very mundane trains of thoughts. Meaning, so what you do is when you discover that you're thinking, you go, okay, I'm thinking about some very, you know, bizarre, strange, why was I thinking about that person, you know, that I haven't thought about in, you know, many, many years. You go, oh yeah, well, what was the thought before that? And you go back one kind of thought. You go, oh yeah, before that, what led me to think about that person was I was thinking about this car. Strange that I would be thinking about a car, you know, this particular brand of car. Okay, well, what was the thought before that? Oh, before that, I was thinking about a dog. And what was the thought before that? Oh, I was thinking about food, dinner, right? What was the thought before? And you keep going back. And what's really funny, I find, is it nearly always comes back to some little external stimulus. Be like, oh yeah, there was a car horn went off down the street and I heard it. And that set off that long train of thought that made me end up thinking about that person that I haven't heard, you know, thought of in 20 years, you know. It's a very helpful thing to do, to track your thoughts backwards, because it nearly always comes back to some little thing external that just triggered you, just some little thing that was going on, you know. And why I find that very helpful is because when I do get it truly, you know, something does come up from very deep inside and it just arrives fully formed, there's nowhere to track it back to. Nothing, you know, it doesn't, it's not like a train of thought has got all these carriages and each carriage has got a thought in it. Something that just comes up from the mystery doesn't have any, it's not even in a train, it's just like fully formed, boom, there it is. But I think without having done that so many times of tracking my thoughts backwards, I don't know if would have been able to separate them out and see the difference. So yeah, that's a good thing to do. As a sort of another kind of meditation thing to do, is to track your thoughts backwards and see what triggered it, you know. Yeah, I'll do one more. Okay, this one says, Dear John, I'm an old man on the spiritual path, yet even after all these years of contemplation, and meditation, I still find myself afraid of death. Even though I know you are a younger man than me, I would be pleased to hear if you have any perspective, if you've got any perspectives that may help me deal with this. Yours sincerely. Okay. Well, that's something lovely about that, I think, to get that correspondence. I don't know. For me, the whole idea of death is pretty much just that. It's an idea. You know, it is like, you know, I talk about the mystery a lot, but like when it comes to mysteries, death is pretty much up there in terms of mysteries. Nobody's come back to tell us what it's like and what happens, you know. But I mean, it's as much of a mystery as birth. You know, where do we come from? Where do we come from? Where do we go? You know. And I think sleep is a little, you know, I think there's a connection there, mainly because when I think through the idea of death, you know, which for me is the fear of me no longer existing. The part of me that's talking to you now would like to think that it is going to go on forever. If I'm really honest, it would like to think that this is never, that this little configuration called John is going to keep going forever. Now, when I think about sleep and what my experience of sleep is, I don't keep going. I stop. This bit stops every night for hours, apparently. And it's okay, you know, there's something about it that it's okay. So I kind of think, I mean, this part of me, the front part of me, loves the idea of afterlives and, you know, continuing on and all that sort of stuff. Loves it, you know. If I'm being really honest, it loves the idea of it, mainly because it gets to continue on. I'll get to continue on in some beautiful heaven or some beautiful reincarnated thing or whatever. And that's fine. But my nightly, not, you know, once a year, nightly, this happens every night, I cease to exist. And it's okay. Now, I think the only difference between going to sleep and dying is this part of me, if it was like, oh yeah, when you go to sleep tonight, that's it, you're not waking up. Then, well, number one, I don't know if I'd get to sleep that night, but if I did, well, like, what would be the difference? I can't see the difference, you know. The only difference would be the anguish of before I went to sleep, going, this is the last time. Goodbye, wife. Goodbye, dogs. Goodbye, world. You know. But I pop off to sleep quite happily, mainly because I'm pretty sure I'm going to wake up. I quite happily go to sleep because I'm pretty sure that, you know, I will continue on. You know, there'll be a continuation. And the only anguish there'd be would be if I was told, no, this one, yeah, actually, that's enough. You had enough now. When you go to sleep, you're not going to wake up again. So really, you know, like there's all these different parts of me have different feelings about it, you know. And there's a bodily thing of where my little body doesn't want to be damaged, or, you know, it's kind of, it's got an investment in protecting itself, you know. So it will try and live for as long as it can. Even as it's in the process of aging, and, you know, just from my experience of watching people dying, it still will hang on until the end. But then, you know, it's so true, like what they say about how the difference between someone who's alive and dead, a live thing and a dead thing, you know. Like we had a little, we've got two cats, and one of our cats had a go at a robin. I mean, I think he just picked it up. But I mean, robins, they're so small, you know, they're little tiny little birds. And my wife, Maggie, saw him in time and stopped him and got the robin off him. But the robin was in shock, right? So she gave him to me, and I was holding him for a while, and he came back to life, and it was great. And but he was quite a young little chick, so anyway, we we put him inside with us for the night, and we check on him, and he was flying around, and it was going great. And the next morning we put him in a kind of a container, so he couldn't fly around and hurt himself. Next morning, I looked in, see was he okay, and he was in there, and he was all puffed up, and it was great. And then I went off and did some other stuff, and then a couple of hours later, Maggie said to me, he's dead. I was like, what? He died in the night. Okay. And really, I picked him up again, and the difference between when he was alive and when he was dead, no difference, like same weight, same, but you could feel like no one was home anymore, And I've had that experience as well of like, from having done so much craniosacral work and, putting my hands on people and feeling what their system is like, I've had my hands on a few like relatives who have passed away. I'll put my hands on them and tune into them the same way. And yeah, no one home. They're just gone, nobody is there anymore. But in the process of dying, their body would have tried to live. But when that spark goes out, or when they withdraw into the mystery for the last time, their body just returns back to being a collection of cells that it was, that the cells that the body was made out of, So I think there's a sort of an inbuilt fear in our bodies about dying that's more to do with self-protection than actually fear of dying. So, for me, I think thinking about it and thinking about death, is very different from the process, of death. And I could get up to that process and be terrified, but I'm not in that process right now. So all I can talk about is sleep, which looks very similar to death, and how I think I would like to die the way I go to sleep, to just go asleep, and whether I continue on or not, in this part of me continues on or not, I think I would like to just happily go into it in the same way as I happily go into sleep. I mean, I don't know if it's the same for you, but it's, there's that point where, because I think a lot about sleep, and I think about this, I think there's something very significant in sleep, in the dreamless part of sleep, even in the process of going through the dreams and going through the psychic world and everything into the mystery. So when I'm, I think probably it's the most conscious thing I do. That's hilarious. I think it's the most conscious thing I do in the day is go asleep, because I'm very, ooh, what's happening? Oh yeah, I can feel it. I can feel myself drifting and going deeper and whatever. So I can, like the idea of death is pretty much an idea for everybody. Even people talk about past or not near-death experiences. I always think that's very funny, because they're talking about it as if, oh, I nearly died, so I know a bit about death. It's like, well, you don't know about death. You know about nearly dying. It's like in that movie, The Princess Bride, where Billy Crystal's character, the old wizard, they bring this guy in for him to help, and he says, oh yeah, he's mostly dead. They were like, what do you mean he's mostly dead? He's dead. And like, oh no, you're the expert. I said he's mostly dead. He's not completely dead. And he brings him back to life. It's the same with people who talk about near-death experiences. I remember watching there's a very famous show on the in Ireland here called the Late Late Show. It was an institution, and there was an American woman on, and she was talking about near-death experience. This must be like 20 or 30 years ago. And the way the show is organized was they'd have one kind of person that was being interviewed, and then there was a panel of people. So as each person got interviewed, they kind of joined the panel. And Roddy Doyle was in the panel, and Roddy Doyle is the guy who wrote The Commitments. He's very down-to-earth kind of dub. And this lady was talking about, you know, the tunnel of light that a lot of people talk about. And there at the bottom of the tunnel, there was Jesus waiting. And it was very moving. She was very, you know, she really like had this experience. And of course, you know, saying that that Jesus is at the end of the tunnel to a predominantly Catholic country could have, you know, just went down fantastic, right? And everybody was like, wow, that's amazing, you know. And it was almost like she was reporting back from the other side. And Gay Byrne, the guy who was like the David Letterman of the show, you know, the host of the show, yeah, he was going down the panel going, you know, getting reactions, whatever. And he got to Roddy Doyle. And it was all, everyone was kind of carried away, me included. Was like, oh, wow, tunnel of light. Jesus is there to meet you, you know. And so the guy goes, what do you think, Roddy? You know, what do you think about all that? And Roddy goes, he said, well, I think a lot of Jewish people are going to get a shock. And it was like somebody, you know, getting a pin and bursting the bubble. And it's like, oh, of course, you know, because you have all these other, you know, things. So it's like, well, yeah, that is going to be weird for all the, you know, Muslim people, Buddhist people, Jewish people. Yeah, oh, it was Jesus. Oh, okay. Well, we backed the wrong horse there. And of course, it just made, you know, highlighted how, you know, near death is like, it's all still, you know, no one's reported back from the other side of like what actually happens. And you know, I talked about the psychic world and all these different, you know, bits of dead people who are only too happy to tell you what it's like on the other side. But I don't think that's true either, you know. I think it's just facing the wrong way, you know. So I think embrace the fear. Going back to the person's question, I think it's okay to be afraid. You know, I mean, it's part of me that, you know, I can talk about it here, but, you know, as I say, if I was if I was in a car crash or I looked like I was going to be in a car crash, I'd be like, ah, like anybody else, you know, like, I don't want to die. Of course I'd be like that, you know, because I think that's my body, you know, and it's my personality. But and I think that's okay. That's okay for that, all that to be there, all the, you know, the deep part and the profound part and all that. It can all coexist, you know. And I like just reading between the lines of the letter. It's like, I've spent a lot of time on the spiritual path. I should be better than this, you know. I should be above this. I should not be afraid of death. You know, no, it's fine to be afraid. It's fine to be like all your feelings, everything, you know, you've got to love it all. You know, you're the love, you're this overarching thing, and you can contain it all and love it all as best you can, even the bits you don't like. Love it anyway. Because if you can love it all, it's got the best chance of blossoming and refining and turning, you know, and having a judgment about yourself that like, God, I've spent all this time on the spiritual path and I still have these failings. No, no, it's fine. It's fine to have what are perceived to be failings and bits of unconscious, you know. It's like the process of refining just keeps going on and on and on. So, you know, for as long as you're alive, you're refining your unconscious. You know, I don't think it's a case of you refine it all. Certainly not it's not my experience. It's all part of the, you know, lovely unfoldment of your life. And not liking bits of you separates them out, you know, and then they become these unloved children that you've got on the inside, you know. Better off to sort of shepherd them all in and go, come on on in, let me give you a hug, let me like put you on my knee, tell me all about it, let's see what we can do about it. I find that much more productive because I've tried all the other bits the other ways, and it didn't work for me anyway. So yeah, I'd encourage you to love that part of you that's a bit afraid of death. It's quite natural, I think, from a bodily perspective, and from the, you know, the frontal part of you, the part of me that would be afraid of dying and ceasing to exist. It's the least conscious part of me, you know. So it needs the most amount of love and understanding from me. So if it's afraid, it's like, yeah, okay, well, let's have a chat about that and see what we can do. So I'd encourage you to do that as well. All right. Well, thanks for joining me for another Zoom group. Lovely as always to see you all, and see you, even though I can't see you watching this video. And yeah, see you for the daily meditations, or see you at the next Zoom group. Bye.